26th Infantry. The Yankee Division was a classic National Guard formation from the New England states. It was one of the first Guard divisions to arrive in France in World War I, where it saw extensive combat. In World War II, it landed in France in late 1944 and was famously thrown into the Battle of the Bulge as part of General Patton's Third Army, helping to relieve the siege of Bastogne. The division was inactivated in 1993, with its lineage being passed to a brigade. 27th Infantry. Formed from the New York National Guard, the 27th Division served with distinction in both World Wars. In World War I, it was one of only 2 U.S. divisions to fight under British command, helping to breach the formidable Hindenburg Line. In World War II, it was federalized and fought in the Pacific Theater, participating in grueling island-hopping campaigns on Makin, Eniwetok, and the bloody battle for Saipan. 28th Infantry. Headquartered in Pennsylvania, the 28th Infantry Division is the oldest continuously serving division in the entire United States Army, with a lineage that traces back to 1747 and Benjamin Franklin's Associators. Known as the Keystone Division, for Pennsylvania's nickname, its soldiers have fought in every major American conflict since the Civil War. In World War II, it was nicknamed the Bloody Bucket by the Germans for its fierce fighting in the Hurtgen Forest and the Battle of the Bulge. 29th Infantry. Headquartered in Virginia, the 29th Infantry Division has one of the most famous legacies in the U.S. Army. Its blue and gray patch symbolizes its formation in World War I from National Guard units on both sides of the American Civil War. The division is immortalized for its role on D-Day, where its 116th Infantry Regiment was among the first wave to assault Omaha Beach, suffering devastating casualties in one of the most heroic and costly actions of the war. 30th Infantry. Named after President Andrew Jackson, Old Hickory was a National Guard division from the southeastern states. It was considered by many historians to be one of the most effective and hard-hitting American infantry divisions in Europe during World War II. It landed at Normandy just after D-Day, spearheaded the breakout during Operation Cobra, and was instrumental in smashing through the Siegfried Line into Germany. 31st Infantry. The Dixie Division was another National Guard formation from the Deep South, with a lineage tracing back to the Civil War. It served in World War I and was reactivated for World War II. During World War II, it was deployed to the Pacific Theater, where it fought in grueling jungle campaigns in New Guinea and the southern Philippines, helping to clear Japanese forces from the island of Mindanao before its inactivation after the war. 32nd Infantry. The Red Arrow Division, formed from Wisconsin and Michigan National Guard units, earned a fearsome reputation in the Pacific Theater of World War II. It was famous for fighting in some of the most brutal jungle campaigns of the war, accumulating more days in combat than any other U.S. Army division. It fought its way through the hellish conditions of New Guinea and the Philippines, consistently piercing enemy lines. 33rd Infantry. The Prairie Division was an Illinois National Guard formation with service in both World Wars. The division participated in the long and difficult New Guinea campaign, where it battled both the enemy and the harsh jungle environment. It later fought in the liberation of the Philippines before being inactivated after the war. 34th Infantry. Headquartered in Minnesota, the 34th Infantry Division holds the distinction of being the first U.S. Army division deployed to Europe in World War II. The Red Bulls fought with incredible tenacity through the brutal North Africa and Italian campaigns, accumulating more days in combat than any other U.S. division in the European theater. Today, it continues to serve in major deployments, including significant command roles in Iraq and the Middle East. 35th Infantry. Headquartered in Kansas, the 35th Infantry Division has a history of service dating back to World War I. Known as the Santa Fe Division for its origins along the old Santa Fe Trail, it fought its way across France in World War II, and one of its battalions was among the first U.S. units to pierce the ring around Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge. The actual relief of Bastogne was carried out by the 4th Armored Division. In the modern era, it serves as a key command and control headquarters, leading brigades from across the Midwest and deploying to command stabilization forces in places like Bosnia and the Middle East. 36th Infantry, headquartered in Texas and representing the Texas Army National Guard, the 36th Infantry Division has a fierce and independent lineage that traces back to the Texas Revolution. The Arrowhead or T-Patch Division served in both World Wars, most notably in the brutal Italian campaign of World War II, including the bloody battle for the Rapido River. Today, it is a major National Guard formation, ready to deploy for federal missions or respond to domestic crises at the call of the Texas governor. 37th Infantry. The Buckeye Division was formed from the Ohio National Guard. It fought with distinction in World War I and saw extensive and brutal combat in the Pacific during World War II. The division fought its way through the Solomon Islands, including the Battle for New Georgia, and was heavily involved in the bloody urban fighting to recapture the city of Manila in the Philippines in 1945. 38th Infantry. Headquartered in Indiana, the 38th Infantry Division earned its nickname the Cyclone of the Pacific for its relentless drive through the Philippines during World War II. The division has a long history of federal and state service. In the modern National Guard, the 38th has taken on a crucial role as a training and readiness headquarters responsible for preparing and validating other Guard brigades for their overseas deployments, ensuring they meet the Army's high standards for combat. 39th Infantry. The 39th had a unique history. It was a real National Guard division organized from Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi troops for World War I, and it deployed to France in 1918, where it served as a replacement and depot division rather than as a combat formation. After the war, the 39th Infantry Division was reactivated as a real Army National Guard division with troops from Louisiana and Arkansas. In 1967, it was reorganized as the 39th Infantry Brigade, whose lineage continues in the Arkansas Army National Guard. 40th Infantry. Headquartered in California, the 40th Infantry Division has a primary focus on the Pacific Theater, reflecting its West Coast home. The Sunburst Division has served in World War I, World War II, and Korea, as well as in the global war on terror. Today, it is a key component of the Army's Pacific strategy, regularly participating in major exercises with allies in the Indo-Pacific and aligning its training with the unique challenges of that vast and critical region. 41st Infantry. The Sunset Division was a National Guard formation from the Pacific Northwest. It was one of the first American divisions to be deployed overseas after Pearl Harbor and held the distinction of the longest overseas service of any U.S. division during World War II. It fought in some of the most difficult jungle terrain of the war, in a series of punishing campaigns across New Guinea and the southern Philippines. 42nd Infantry. Headquartered in New York, the 42nd Infantry Division has one of the most famous origins in the Army. It was formed in World War I from National Guard units from 26 different states and the District of Columbia. Its first Chief of Staff, Colonel Douglas MacArthur, remarked that it would stretch over the whole of America like a rainbow. The Rainbow Division served with distinction in both World Wars and was one of the first Guard divisions to be called to duty after 9/11, tasked with securing critical sites in New York City. 43rd Infantry. The 43rd was a National Guard division from New England that was deployed to the Pacific Theater in World War II. It saw intense combat in the Solomon Islands, particularly in the difficult campaign on New Georgia. The division later played a key role in the liberation of the Philippines, fighting in the crucial battles to secure the island of Luzon from Japanese forces. 44th Infantry. The 44th was a National Guard division from New Jersey, New York, and Delaware that served in the European theater of World War II. It arrived in France in late 1944 and was thrust into combat, fighting through the Alsace region and pushing into Germany and Austria in the final months of the war. After the war, it was reorganized as the 50th Armored Division before its lineage was eventually inactivated. 45th Infantry. The Thunderbird was a National Guard division from the Southwest, renowned for having a high proportion of Native American soldiers, whose Thunderbird insignia became its symbol. It fought with distinction in some of the toughest campaigns in Europe during World War II, including the invasions of Sicily and Italy, the brutal Anzio beachhead, and the final push into Germany. The division was also activated for distinguished service in the Korean War. 46th Infantry. The 46th Iron Fist Division was a Michigan National Guard formation during the early Cold War. Although many of its units inherited the lineage of older Michigan National Guard organizations, the 46th Division itself was created after World War II as part of the National Guard's post-war reorganization. It was maintained as a trained and ready force that could be mobilized in the event of a major war with the Soviet Union, before being inactivated during a force restructuring in the 1960s. 47th Infantry. The 47th Viking Division was a Minnesota and North Dakota National Guard formation during the Cold War. It inherited the lineage of units that had served in both world wars. Like other Guard divisions of the era, its primary mission was to serve as a strategic reserve, ready for federal activation. The division was a key part of the Midwestern military landscape until it was inactivated in the 1990s. 48th Infantry. The 48th Hurricane Division was a National Guard division with units primarily from Georgia and Florida. It was another key component of the Cold War Reserve Force, established in the post-World War II era. It was maintained as a trained infantry division until the 1950s, when it was reorganized and converted into the 48th Armored Division. 49th Infantry. The 49th Argonauts Division was a California National Guard formation. It served as California's Cold War National Guard Infantry Division, but it was not one of the 4 Army National Guard divisions mobilized for the Korean War. During the Cold War, it remained California's 49th Infantry Division until it was inactivated in 1968, with its units reorganized into other California Army National Guard formations. 51st Infantry. The 51st Infantry Division was a National Guard formation with units from South Carolina and Florida. It was established after World War II as part of the Cold War Strategic Reserve. Its history is linked with the 48th Division, as units were realigned between the two. The 51st was inactivated on April 1, 1963, and its components were reorganized into other units. 52nd Infantry. The 52nd Infantry Division was a real post-World War II Army National Guard division allocated to California in 1946. In 1947, it was redesignated as the 49th Infantry Division as part of California's post-war National Guard reorganization. It was briefly organized in California rather than existing only as a paper deception unit. Its lineage continued almost immediately under the new designation of the 49th Infantry Division. 27th Armored. The 27th Armored Division was a New York Army National Guard formation created during the Cold War, carrying forward the proud lineage of the old 27th Infantry Division into the Armored Age. As the Army adapted to the demands of modern mechanized warfare, the division was reorganized to provide a powerful heavy force that could be mobilized in the event of a major conflict with the Soviet Union. Though it never saw combat overseas as a full division, the 27th Armored stood as a key part of the National Guard's strategic reserve until it was inactivated in the 1960s. 30th Armored. The 30th Armored Division was a Tennessee-based Army National Guard formation that emerged from the celebrated legacy of the old 30th Infantry Division, Old Hickory. Reorganized for the Cold War battlefield, it transformed that combat heritage into an armored force built for the demands of large-scale modern war. As part of the Army's reserve structure, the division was maintained as a ready heavy formation, prepared to reinforce active duty forces in a global crisis, before eventually being inactivated during later force reductions. 40th Armored. The 40th Armored Division was a California Army National Guard formation created during the Cold War as the armored counterpart to the storied 40th Infantry Division. Built to meet the demands of modern mechanized warfare, it transformed California's long National Guard tradition into a heavy combat force designed for rapid federal mobilization in the event of a major global conflict. Though it never went to war overseas as a full division, the 40th Armored stood as an important part of the National Guard's strategic reserve before it was eventually reorganized out of the force. 48th Armored. The 48th Armored Division was a Florida and Georgia-based Army National Guard formation that carried forward the lineage of the old 48th Infantry Division into the armored era. Reorganized during the Cold War, it reflected the Army's shift toward heavy formations built for high-intensity war in Europe or elsewhere around the globe. As one of the National Guard's major armored divisions, the 48th maintained a combat-ready posture for decades before later force reductions and restructuring brought its service as a division to an end. 49th Armored. The 49th Armored Division was a Texas National Guard formation with a long history. It was organized in Texas after World War II as one of the Army National Guard's two post-war armored divisions, serving alongside the reformed 36th Infantry Division. The Lone Star Division was a key part of the U.S. Army's strategic reserve for decades, maintained as a heavy combat force ready to be mobilized to reinforce active duty units in a major war before its final inactivation. 50th Armored. The 50th Armored Division was a New Jersey Army National Guard formation. It was created after World War II from the lineage of the 44th Infantry Division. Nicknamed the Jersey Blues, it was a major part of the Cold War strategic reserve for decades. It was tasked with providing a combat-ready, heavy armored force that could be mobilized to reinforce NATO or respond to other global contingencies. Thanks for watching. Which National Guard division do you think had the greatest combat legacy? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and also check out the shop link in the description to support the channel.